Good morning, everyone. Dzień dobry. My name is Maja Drabczyk. I'm part of the EUscreen board. I used to be part of FINA, and it's really a special moment for me to be back, and on this very spot, and to welcome you to the second day of our symposium, co-hosted by EUscreen Foundation and National Film Archive. No, what's the word? National Film Archive, Audiovisual Institute. Yes, FINA. Good. Your moderator for the day is ready, but allow me to kind of briefly first recap yesterday and introduce you to day two. We started on a kind of high note that was made on purpose and discussing like the big questions related to AI, openness, and how the loops, as Alek Tarkowski called them, are kind of impacting how we embrace openness, how we embrace commons, public, and how we relate it to the values. And from that perspective, we jumped to a discussion, one of my favorites, on copyright. It used to be, when I started working in the field, I remember, and I think it was Johan saying always, you know, whenever you want to kill a discussion in a room, mention copyright, and no one will will say a word. And fortunately, this has changed, and we are now all eager to discuss it. We also know we have to discuss it, and AI is only one of the issues. I think yesterday conversation showed how kind of the sort of basic questions are still a challenge when it comes to openness, when it comes to access, when it comes to reuse. Then we jumped to a discussion on integrity, something I think essential for the archival work, be it for AV, but any other kind of heritage, and how you embrace the new ecosystems, and but also kind of stay true to the values, the integrity, the trust that is put in the archive. We were discussing human bias, we were discussing AI bias. I think it's fair to say we are all biased, but there is also a beauty that, and the role of the archive is kind of to be transparent about it and say sorry. And today with Marco and the esteemed panelists, we are jumping to yet another endeavor. So we have two endeavors ahead of us. Marco Rendina, everyone, he is also part of the EUscreen family, and I will allow him to introduce the panel.
Thank you, Maya. So good morning, everyone. I would like to invite our fellow panelists to join on these very comfy sofas. Thank you. So welcome to this first panel of this second day. Our title is Collaboration and Participatory Practices. That's a mouthful. Let me translate this. For most of their history, archives has been fortresses of the repository of knowledge. Let's say locked doors, white gloves, and a reading room if you're lucky. The archivist decided what mattered, and we said thank you. That model is kind of cracking, probably not because anyone's want to tear the walls down, but because the walls no longer match the world outside them, probably. So the question, I think that communities once in technology keeps knocking, and the question who owns the past has become quite hard to answer, I would say, at least for me. This panel is about what happens when archives stop guarding and start collaborating, I would say. It's about the messy and exciting and sometimes uncomfortable work of sharing authority with communities, with technologies also, and with each other. We have 4 speakers today. Well, actually, 5, sorry. Yes, 4 presentations. And I promise that they are not going to agree on everything, which is a good point, I would say. We begin in Lithuania. I practiced this the whole morning to pronounce your surnames. I'm pretty sure I will fail, but Jolė Stimbirytė, yes, and Laura Kerušauskaitė. Huh? Okay, sorry, really. From the Lithuanian Central State Archive. They will introduce Ikinas, a virtual audiovisual platform more than a decade in the making. It's something that started quite a long time ago. I remember it at the beginning. And last year's winners of the Fiatifta Award for disseminating the value of archives. It's a place where film, photography, audio is staying in one place, a masterclass in long-term institutional vision, I would say. Then we traveled to London with Daniel Chavez Eras from King's College London, leads the ISA project, Intelligent System for Screen Archives. Daniel asked a simple question. When archives buy AI services, what exactly are they buying? His answers involves 5 UK archives, 5 use cases, let's say, open source prototypes, and a quiet argument about where knowledge should live. Spoiler is not with the vendors. Yeah, right? From there, we go to Krakow, to Janeta Jeglen. What's good, right? Yeah, thanks. Assistant professor at the Jagiellonian University Museum. Coordinates the Horizon Project Impulse. Janeta works at the edge where heritage meets XR and AI and the imagination. Her question is, what happens after digitization, when collections stop being simple records and start becoming raw material for new stories? And we had in Belfast, Elspeth Vischer, filmmaker and coordinator of the Northern Ireland Now at the Nerve Centre, has spent the last 2 years working with over 28 community partners to collect the Belfast that official archives missed. So we are talking about young people, LGBTQIA+ groups, disabled communities, migrants, old residents. She will share some of the footage with us. I would encourage to watch this closely. So institution, technology, practice, people, that's our arc for today's session. 4 speakers, 10 minutes each, then about 20 minutes, probably a bit less, 15 minutes for questions. And I will be holding them to the clock, gently but firmly. I mean, it won't happen. I'm very bad at this, unfortunately. And yeah, Jolė, Laura, the floor now is yours. Thank you.
So hello everyone, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for host, for Nina to inviting us, for EUscreen for being, and Marco for introducing. So we are pleased to introduce our virtual audiovisual archive EUscreen, learning from international colleagues such as EFG and EUscreen, of course. Other open archives, we took our shot. The newest version of EUscreen was launched only last year. And we are proud that last year EUscreen was honored with the International Fiatifta Award in the nomination Mastery in Disseminating the Value and Potential of Archives. Also, the Lithuanian Central State Archive first recognized the need for such platform back in 2012. Today, I remember that the initial idea of having online our archival material was in 2004 even, so it's more than 20 years of idea. But in 2012, the initial pilot version of the website was created. And a breakthrough came in early 2022 after the archives completed a nearly through $3.5 million project funded by EU structural funds and the Republic of Lithuania. And this milestone enabled the launch of a renewed and significantly expanded version of EUscreen. Since then, the platform has continued to evolve with substantial improvements implemented each year. So now I give floor to my colleague.
Thank you, Jolė, and I will continue. So I'm really happy to be here and introduce you our audiovisual archive EUscreen. In English, we could call e-cinema or e-movie, but let's talk like EUscreen. So as Jolė mentioned before, the big step happened in 2022 after we opened our archive with film archives. So the website was improved every year and mostly focusing on film archive, but it's not the last one. And the biggest and important stage was in 2024 when we opened our photography archive. And this is where we count the start of our main project because only then EUscreen became virtual audiovisual archive. We save more different type of documents. So today the website count more than 250,000 items, 91% photographs, 6% films, and 3% audio. And talking about audio, today, when we working only our state budget, we can proudly say that in 2025 we reached the final image of EUscreen and when the audio archive was launched. It still need a lot of work and time to improve the website, of course, but we invite you to look closer at it. So the website allows you to search by event, person, topic, or author. The result can be filtered in many useful ways, such as location or historical timeline, but also user can search by collections or an interactive world map. Also, now our main aim is to promote digital audiovisual heritage that we keep in Lithuanian Central State Archives and make it more visible, accessible, reusable, and easy to search. So if you like what you found, you can share it on social media with only one click. And we, of course, invite you to do that. Addressing to the copywriting material on EUscreen is also very important for us. Yesterday we talked about it a lot. So each audiovisual document on our website is marked with a copywriting symbol where a user can check the availability status. EUscreen is the only website in Lithuania where user can contact the copyright holder directly and ask for permission to use material. In addition, anyone can create an account and use more website function. So register user can cut wanted film clips, take a snapshot, and save photos. They can keep them in a personal gallery and just build their own collection or exhibitions. So just like Pinterest, but in a better way. And registered user can also order paid service. They can pay it like such a high quality copies or thematic search. They can track orders, make a payment, and receive files directly. For example, in 2025, we had more than 500 visitors who ordered specific service. User can also help improve the archive. They can add metadata and correct description in the document. If he recognizes some people, place, or has new information that is not in the description, they just can add it, we review, and update the data. And looking at the EUscreen today, we are proud of our results. EUscreen team is an active participant in the dialogue of Lithuanian culture. We work with filmmakers, photographers, historians, researchers. We provide our material to films, exhibitions, books, and even more. We also work with the entire public, senior students and families. Since 2023, we have been representing ourselves at Vilnius Book Fair. We work with the Social Recept project with Lithuania Senior. We join international conference and event, live and virtuality. So EUscreen is becoming more than a website for us. It's a community. Most users are from Lithuania, but the content is also available in English, most part of it. And there's no geo-blocking, so the website can be used everywhere in the world. But I will let Jolė to end our representation.
Okay, thank you. So, of course, we are thinking about the future, and now we are thinking about implementing some artificial intelligence tools. So there are 3 plans for this year and maybe for next year if we will not do this this year. So the first is automatic translation of descriptions, of film descriptions from Lithuanian to English. Now we are translating ourselves and use the help of English language students for their practice. The second is improve subtitling and transcription. Now we use an external tool for transcribing from audio to text, as well as internal tool for making subtitles. So we want to create one more comfortable and accurate internal AI tool for both transcription and subtitling. And the third plan is similar image detection and comparison. And we hope to have such a tool that can compare new photos with those already in the database, providing the information we need. And also in the future, we hope to apply artificial intelligence tools that provide the ability to classify images, identify objects, and apply optical character recognition to images. So it's time for you to visit EUscreen.
Imagine, what if there was one place for all your audiovisual needs? Lithuanian Central State Archives team can answer that easily. We introduce you to our latest version and newly launched virtual audiovisual archive EUscreen website.
Today, EUscreen consists of 3 different archives: movie, photography, and audio documents.
Our main aim is to promote digitized audiovisual heritage that we keep in the Lithuanian Central State Archives and make it more visible, accessible, and reusable.
Let's look at the website's functions and advantages for users.
Our great wish is to involve the website visitor not only in watching and getting to know the stored audiovisual content, but also in searching and using it. The website allows you to search for the desired event, personality, topic, author, or genre. Search results can be filtered by many useful filters. Search is also offered according to collections, historical timeline, interactive world map. If you like what you find, you can share it on social media with only one click. Anyone can become a registered visitor, create an account, and engage with the website even more. We offer ordering paid services, such as ordering high-definition digital copy of the document, live broadcast, thematic search. You can also see order status and receive them directly to your account. Also offer you to add metadata and correct the description of the document if you see inaccuracies. You can also cut wanted film clips and make snapshots. Keep them in your personal gallery, where one can create its own exhibition, collection, and share them with others. EUscreen is turning into not just a website, but also a live and virtual community.
Thank you very much, Lorena. Daniel, can you go on stage and we will hear about the ISA or ISA project. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Good morning, everyone. I am Daniel Chauceras. I am going to speak for a few minutes about the Intelligent Systems for Screen Archives project. I am a researcher and technologist, and as such, I want to make the case for open development in the framework of the Symposium about openness, and hopefully present this as a concrete example of that. So the Intelligent Systems for Screen Archive, the name has always been controversial. I always say it ISA or ISA. I don't know how exactly. I should have thought about this acronym better at the time. So this is a project that is funded by the British Film Institute through National Lottery funding. We have 5 moving image archive partners in the UK. The aim of the project is to enable these moving image archives to experiment creatively with AI technologies in the context of their own collections, but also with emerging open source tools and emerging different types of AI technologies. In short, we wanted to collaborate with archives to understand what's possible with AI today, and to do this in a practical way. We're quite interested in testing things and in trying things out in a way that is that allows the university to make the best use of its resources, but also that allows archive partners to benefit from that collaboration. On the side of King's, I'm leading the project, but working closely with King's Digital Lab. This is a research software engineering unit that is based in the Faculty of Arts and Humanities. And on the side of Screen Archives, you can see our partners on screen. I'm very happy to say that our friends from Northern Ireland are also represented in this panel through a different project. So this is the 5 archives and the Film Archives UK as an association that groups them together. Now, this is where we are at the moment in the project. We are entering the 2nd year, so this is a 2-year project, although it's going to run more than 2 years, a little bit more than 2 years. We had a couple of weeks ago a demonstrator event in London, and I'm very happy to be able to bring some of these very kind of fresh updates about this to this audience today. Now, what we've been doing over the past year is archive engagement. One of the important things for us was not to come to this problem with a solution in mind or with a solutionist mindset, as many of these AI technologies tend to do, but to start on the opposite side, engaging with archives and asking what are the real challenges, the problems. Many of the things that we've discussed yesterday came up in conversation. During this, we conducted several interviews, and from these interviews and from this initial engagement, we came up with these 4 use cases. Semantic segmentation, something that we eventually are coming to call the context builder, but you'll see it represented as place-based search and retrieval. The audience builder, which you'll see represented as automated audio descriptions, and the semantic integration layer, which is the most ambitious layer, or the most ambitious MVP. MVP, by the way, in kind of technical parlance, minimum viable product or prototype. And I'm not gonna go into detail with any of this, but I want to cover them all to give you a flavor of what we've been doing, and then end with some of the things that we have learned so far. So the MVP pipeline is important to say. We don't see them as 4 separate things. We actually see them as a chain, a link, a chain that is links several transformations with the data and with the material. And the high-level description of this chain could be seen as this idea of atomization, densification, and integration at the data level. I know this is not something that is usually the same language that we use for film archives, so I invite you to discuss this in conversation later. So quickly going through the MVPs, semantic segmentation, what it means in practice is using large vision and language models to segment long-form video files into meaningful smaller units. What a meaningful smaller unit is depends on the use case very often, but we think that there is a great deal to be gained by fragmenting records in screen archives into much smaller units, into kind of molecular units, if you will. To do this, we have developed a pipeline that is described here. This one, all of our workflows are open source models, and they are all run in our local infrastructure at the university. None of this is shared with third parties or with commercial AI vendors. These are some of the examples of the segmentations with different types of source material. It works very differently with documentary, for example, than it does with newscasts or with brushes in this case, etc. But it does work. We're quite pleased with how things shaped up for this MVP. Happy to discuss this further. There is a little interface and visualization that I won't have time to share, but it's already given us an idea of how the semantic segmentation works. MVP2, which is the place-based search and retrieval. This is using multimodal embeddings to surface local and regional references in archive material. You're mentioning search by location, but also similarity, visual similarity. So this is part of the two strands that we're looking at. This is based on automated audio transcription, but also on the other side, also on visual analysis. One of the limitations that we've been finding, obviously, a lot of this material is historical material. Some of the place names don't exist anymore. They have changed, etc. But some of the things that came up in conversation during our demonstrator last week was actually that we could also integrate other types of data, for example, historical maps and gazetteers and other types of information that can enrich and densify the data that we have for this placed data representation of place, basically. And this is the audio strand of this, and it's also interactive, so you can go directly to the specific place where a specific place or name of a place is mentioned in a given corpus of clips, and you can also plot this in a map. Semantic search is the visual side of the same idea. You have faceted search on the left, but you can also search by image or have this type of visual similarity search. And we are working for this MVP in joining or fusing these two things to aim for kind of higher level representation and essentially a more sophisticated way of semantic search and retrieval for MVP number 2. MVP number 3, which is automated audio description. This is the one where we thought this was going to be a relatively easy win, and it turned out to be the exact opposite. We found that the technology at the moment for audio description is not as mature as we thought, and it doesn't really, it has the gap between what's possible with the technology and what's desirable from an optimal human audio description perspective is still greater than we thought. We experimented with specialist models, but we've been also experimenting with video understanding models. So this is an example of the output of latest video understanding model to try to do audio description using mostly prompt engineering, but other techniques as well with documentary film. So this one is the one that we can report less progress, if you want to see it that way, in terms of the output. And then finally, the MVP number 4, which is algorithmic editing and creative reuse interfaces. So the idea was to combine the techniques from 1 to 3 and to think about interfaces for creative reuse. But interfaces in general are quite interesting to us. Many of the gains we think can be had are at the level of interface, and we're trying to creating this kind of crude metaphor, Lego metaphor, in which we are thinking about what's already available, what exists. I just showed you faceted search, for example, which amounts to some very classical archival idea, archival, where you have loads of different pieces that you put in different boxes, you label them, and that allows you to search and retrieve them when you need them. And we're also thinking about what would it mean to transform this into a very different type of idea that is kind of user-led and intent-led, especially when the intent is vague. No? So the idea is to imagine an interface that accepts some kind of vague intent and then reshapes the archive around what you want to do with it. And this is something that's possible if you fragment and if you atomize the archive in the way that I described before. These are just sketches for possible ideas for the context and audience builder, and we think there is a lot more input that we need from users to densify data in the way that it can then be integrated at the other end. So in other words, AI may be very helpful in the middle part of a larger system. So note that intelligent systems for screen archives, when I say system, I include people. So people are part of this system, and we believe that there is a role to play depending on where they fit into wider workflows or wider patterns of work with screen material. And then finally, to connect tools with use cases, we are developing some middleware prototypes. The one that we've been working on the most is called FrameSense, and this is just an open source tool to create this segmentation, this fragmentation, but also for replicability. This is really important from a scientific point of view, but we also think it's important for progress in this particular area of technology. We need to be able to replicate the findings from one archive to another, or from one use case to another, and this is how we think we can build capacity. Build replicable workflows with open source tools is not something that's immediately offered by AI vendors. So I talked a little bit about the demonstrator we had and some of the outputs we have, but I want to leave you with kind of 7 early lessons, if you will, about some of this work. Some of the things we found by engaging with archives in terms of precision and discovery, which we thought there would be opposites, and they're not seen as opposites by our screen partners. The backlog is a constant source of anxiety for many of our partners as well. Accessibility seems to be common ground as well. There's a lot of interest in this area, although, as I said, the technology might not be there entirely yet. But the number 4 and essentially number 4 and number 7 is the ones that I want to leave you with today. So the most significant challenges we have found are not technological. We have the technology to do these things, and these are open source technologies that can be run on university infrastructure. The most significant challenge comes from integration to systems, but also from integration and interinstitutional integration. Is the institutional willingness to transform the archive into something else that we have been finding to be the most significant challenge. So just to wrap everything up, number 7. So the one thing that we think is most valuable about this exercise is to go and do this development together, because then we keep the knowledge. So for every experiment we run and we document and we make publicly available, we build knowledge and we build capacity that stays with the institutions, both universities and screen archives. If we buy tokens from vendors, we get a quick output, and that might be very tempting because it's immediate and it may solve a problem tomorrow, but it won't create the knowledge. And part of the reason why these AI technologies are not necessarily well understood or well costed in the sector is because we're not considering knowledge creation as part of the whole ecosystem of development. So I invite you today to partner with a university. Not all researchers are only interested in publishing fancy, shiny new papers. We also want to reach out, and it's also on us to reach out to other parts of the cultural ecosystem. So if you're interested in this, get in touch. Our tools are all available on a public code repository. You can try and test them. We'll keep developing them, and I hope I can see you at EUscreen next year and tell you what happened after this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And now I want to invite Janetta to present her experiments with the Impulse project.
Hello, everyone. It's very nice to be there, and thank you for your kind invitation. It's an honor and pleasure. I want to start with something that happened very recently and very close to here, but also more broadly, that we are at a very particular moment in Europe right now. A moment of quite profound transformation in how we think about cultural heritage data and infrastructures. On the one hand, building on Europeana and many institutional collections, we are developing the European data space for cultural heritage. On the other, within the ECHOS project, a large-scale infrastructure is emerging. I mean the European Collaborative Cloud for Cultural Heritage. And just a few weeks ago, in Poznań, here in Poland, the leaders of these two initiatives signed a cooperation agreement. And in the diagram that was presented in Poznań, at the center of that conversation, one element kept appearing again and again, and it's community. Not at the edge, not as an afterthought. In the center, driving the flow of digitized assets, enriched metadata, new knowledge, and reuse. I found this diagram both inspiring but also demanding, because it immediately raises a question: what does it actually take to put community in that position? Not in a diagram, but in practice, in real archival workflow with real institutions and real people. And this is one of the key questions we've been working within Impulse. As Marco already mentioned, Impulse is a Horizon Europe project that we are working with a consortium of 11 partners across Europe. And from the very beginning, when we were writing a proposal, we worked with a specific assumption that digitization of cultural heritage in Europe has largely been institution-driven. Archivists, curators, librarians decide what gets digitized, how it is described, what kind of metadata is created, and how users encounter it. So even when collections are open, they are still structured through institutional perspectives. In Impulse, we decided to shift a little bit that knowledge, that logic, and to work not only for users, but with them. At the same time, we were responding to a key European question: what do we actually do with everything we have already digitized? So we decided to experiment a little bit. So what happens if we take digitized cultural heritage and place it into in immersive multi-user virtual environments? Do these objects gain new meaning there? Do they generate new form of engagement? Do they become something more than representations? And very quickly, this experiment started to reveal something else, that the question is not only about where we place this object, but who is involved in shaping their meaning. Because even in new environments, the same underlying tension can remain. Archives can be technically open and still remain culturally closed. So the real question becomes, how do we move from access to actual participation in interpretation? And this is exactly where our prototypes begin. Let me make this more concrete, but before I do, whenever we say community, we are referring to something extremely complex. Many different groups, many different needs. Even with around 90 researchers that I've got in the Impulse team, we are not able to work with all of them. So we make a deliberate decision to differentiate this broad idea of community and to work with selected groups more closely, understanding their needs and building dialogue with them separately. We focused on 3 groups, taking together students and educators. The second group are artists, and the third one is representatives of the creative industries. And around the 3 groups, we built our 3 prototypes. Impulse for Education works with students, teachers, and educators together through workshops. They co-create educational materials based on digitized collection from our partner institutions, working inside virtual environments where digital objects can be arranged, explored, and reinterpreted. Students experiment freely, combining objects, testing what stories can emerge. Educators take on different role. They design structured learning experiences, curating content, and framing narratives. In that sense, they become curators of educational process, not just content providers, but designers of entire learning journeys. The second prototype is Impulse for Creation, that open access to digitized collection from all partner institutions to artists, and artists work freely with these materials, creating performative and immersive experiences that bring together dancers, virtual artists, and creators working with virtual environments. What happens here is not just reuse, but recontextualization. Historical artifact may become part of an immersive narrative set within the reimagined space, such as Giantia Temple in Malta. And cultural heritage this way is not only displayed, it becomes part of a living performative experience. And the third prototype is about connection, and this is the most demanding prototype because it brings us into direct dialogue with creative industries. Because we started with a simple question, why do creative industries still make such limited use of already digitized cultural heritage? What are the barriers? We work directly with these communities to understand their workflows and expectations, and at the same time we are building a technical bridge connecting data from Europeana and Wikidata with our immersive platform. And our hypothesis, if digitized heritage can be used in virtual environments as easily as 3D assets on commercial platforms today, both visibility and reuse may significantly increase. Here is a set of photographs from our events and a few shots of what happened on our platform. As a project coordinator, I wasn't physically present in most workshops, but one thing keeps returning, that communities don't just do archives, they change what the archives think it knows. And before I move to the point what we've already learned and what we are still learning, just a brief reflection on where we are in the project. Impulse is now 2 years into its work, 2 very intensive years of research and collaboration with users, also research on UX. We have run a large number of workshops, organized 3 pre-hackathons, and now we are preparing for a final hackathon in Athens. At the same time, another round of user research is still ahead of us. So what I'm sharing here is not a final conclusion, it's rather a set of emerging observation patterns that are starting to take shape across the different contexts and communities. And at this stage then can be framed as 3 key insights. So first is epistemic humility. So more voices deepen authenticity. The second one is embedded workflows. So co-creation must shape systems, not be added at the end. And the third one is trust. So real agency, not symbolic participation. And you know, my background is in data management, and I've worked on collection system for many years. And from my perspective, it is often easier for me to imagine how to build infrastructures and connect systems, align initiatives, than to respond to communities. We still struggle to listen. We focus on active users, but rarely reach non-users, and working with them is really hard, and with non-users even harder. It requires mediation, time, and openness, and without that, community remains incomplete. Which brings us back to the first question: who owns the archive? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aneta. And now we are going towards the last presentation. Elspeth will tell us about their experiences with work community in Belfast. Thank you.
Thanks so much. So I'm delighted to be part of this fantastic conference and to tell you a bit about a project that hopefully ties in a lot of the themes of the panel, particularly in focusing on community-centred approaches to engagement with the archive and this theme of reframing openness, therefore. My name's Elspeth Fisher. I coordinate a project with Nerve Centre in partnership with Northern Ireland Screen called Northern Ireland Now. As you can see here from our banner, our aim of this is to engage in contemporary collecting, to add a new collection to the digital film archive, which is managed by Northern Ireland Screen. We receive funding from the British Film Institute, and this second phase of the project also through Belfast City Council. And I'll show a brief trailer. So the first phase of the project, I've been in post since October 23, and it involved working with 14 community partners all across the north of Ireland. We are aiming to address gaps in our archive collection through this outreach work, and these are minority groups who are in rural areas, working class young people, LGBT plus groups, as well as newcomer and migrant communities in the north of Ireland. With our first phase, as I mentioned, this was a wider geographical scope. Our second phase, we've tightened this to be focusing in on Belfast, and I'll touch on why that is after showing a brief kind of snapshot of just some of the types of video materials we have collected collaboratively with community partners. So yeah, I'm taking this, I think the title was cut off my previous slide, but I'm taking this as more of a case study to take you through some of the work with Northern Ireland Now as a project and to showcase some of the videos that we have collected. So hopefully it'll be a kind of colourful snapshot of the work that we've been doing, with a view to kind of discussing how we are taking this collaborative approach. And I think that question of who owns archives is very pertinent. And part of what we're doing is trying to open up the archives to groups that may not have accessed them before, that may not understand them as a resource, and also to activate them through showcases and screenings, and to get people in a room, in a physical space, to discuss ideas as we view materials that we have collected with them and made with them. So photographed here is a slide of a youth group called the Soup Group. They are an LGBT plus youth group who work with the Beat Carnival in Belfast, and we hosted a series of workshops with them around Halloween, and we made horror films. So the remit of our project is not only to collect videos that may exist within community partners, but to also share skills around filmmaking. So I come from a filmmaking background myself, working in documentaries, working particularly with community-based documentary and sort of themes of activism. And so we tend to try and share skills to enable groups to actually document their own history in the way that they want and to be part of an archive, and to actually go forward and think that they can do this with no budget, with their phones in their pockets, and actually why that's so important to be a part of history. So within the Northern Ireland Now project, we don't have a specific type of media that we collect. It's all around what's important to each of the community partners. And so that can be short social media style content shot in vertical. That can be longer funded projects that groups may have been involved in as well. And as I mentioned, our second phase is then focused in on Belfast stories particularly. So there is going to be an eventual large documentary centre, and visitor attraction that will open in 2030 in Belfast City Centre called Belfast Stories. So part of our second phase of this project is to tie in with collecting materials that may be showcased as part of its exhibitions. And so we have 15 partners for this second phase of the project across the city of Belfast. We have the aim of collecting over 150 new materials. Our first phase, the collection that's already sitting on the Digital Film Archive, has around 150 or so videos in there already. As I mentioned, as coordinator, I'm also kind of facilitating and I'm out engaging in a lot of outreach. So we tend to do around 4 or 5 workshops with each partner. It starts with a look back of what is the archive, what is our history, particularly kind of given our sort of divided history of conflict within the north of Ireland. It's engaging within that, and then it's actually saying what are the important lessons that we've learned and what is the importance of showcasing the diversity in contemporary society and in Belfast as it is today. So as well as learning those skills, engaging in how we can catalogue collaboratively, why language is important, interrogating perhaps outdated language within the archive, and what's important in the way that videos are represented by groups. We then, as I say, also share skills in making new content. And we culminate with having a mini showcase with each of our community partners, where we actually screen materials made with friends and family, discuss ideas, and aim to then forge connections where we're actually encouraging them to submit future video materials for the archive. We have an open door policy working with Northern Ireland Screen and my colleague Stephen, who's here at EUscreen with me. We always encourage people to maintain a connection with Northern Ireland Screen and with Nerve Centre so that they know it's there, they know the archive is for them to be a part of, and that's part of the importance of this kind of outreach in this project as well. So I wanted to show a couple of videos that showcase what the kinds of work we have been doing and what we have been collecting. As it says here, we take a tailored approach where we actually adapt the structure of workshops to suit each community partner. So that's from making things like club visuals to perhaps anti-bullying narrative films. So we worked with Black Moon, who are a disability arts organisation based in Belfast. They run a monthly club night for and by adults with disabilities. And they wanted to make visuals that were projected on the walls of their monthly club night, so they would work with or without audio while they were DJing. And so we did that across 5 days in the summer, in August, as a sort of summer school structure. And one participant, Emily Mullen, made this beautiful short piece, which I will just show. So yes, as well as showcasing these films in a more cinematic context with audio, as I say, they played out then in a monthly club night with the group, and they were also part of Culture Night in Belfast, which saw them projected in different spaces around an arts venue, and that night had over 11,000 visitors through the door. So it's activating the archive, it's showcasing materials in different settings, as well as then obviously preserving them and keeping them as part of a collection online. So we're sort of trying to expand from principles of the first phase of the project. We're actually trying to keep this autonomy of ideas, community-led approach, what is important for them to document, how do they want to tell these stories, and how do they want them archived and catalogued then, as I mentioned. So we've also sort of tried to move into an emphasis on intergenerational projects, on working with young people in conversation with older people. And we have been doing that with a group, Bridge NI, where we've had teenagers from the New Lodge area of Belfast interviewing older women about their perspectives and on the theme of resilience. Pictured here as well is a group of young men in East Belfast who wanted to make a film called Now and Then that sort of documented the closure of a local shopping centre and the impact that had on young people in their area. Again, this was all their own ideas. It was all shot by them. And I was merely sort of on site to provide any technical assistance and support in terms of encouraging. So it's been fantastic to get to work with these groups and to actually be able to as it says here, activate the archive and showcase things in different settings. So we've partnered with lots of local festivals with the work that we've done and collected, including Docs Ireland, Foyle Film Festival in Derry, Belfast Film Festival, and we've had larger individual partner showcases where we've tied in with what the groups would like to showcase. So, for example, we worked with a women's group, Bridge NI, and we had an International Women's Day showcase there in March. And recently, a couple of weeks ago, we had another showcase with the Migrant Centre where we shared food and were showcasing some of the films they'd made. And I have a brief snapshot video which also kind of showcases that day. So better than me talking about it, although double trouble because I'm on screen as well, so apologies. Hi, my name's Elspeth Vischer and I am the project coordinator for Northern Ireland Now. It's a project run with Nerve Centre in partnership with Northern Ireland Screen. We engage with community partners all across Belfast to contemporary collect videos that they've made and share skills around heritage and archives. Today we've had a lovely showcase screening event with the Migrant Centre where we showcased films that they've made as part of the project and elsewhere in their careers and from their experiences, and talked to them about the themes around resilience and newcomer communities in Belfast and what that means to them. So we had a fantastic event sharing food and sharing their films with great discussion.
Yeah, my name's Jolė Fitzpatrick and I work for Migrant Centre NI as the project officer for the Migrant and Ethnic Minority Peace Builders project. So it was really nice to see the stories and the films that people have made coming together. There's like historical, documentaries, drama, horror, so it really shows how diverse people's experiences and perspectives are.
So I think particularly within the context of Northern Ireland and Belfast, showcasing these diverse perspectives on screen is really important. It's really encouraging for people to see that this is what Northern Ireland looks like now, and that these are the important historical perspectives that we have not seen enough of in our archive, and to centre those in the work that we're doing. And so I'll end there and I'll leave my email on screen and just invite you to check out the Digital Film Archive and our collection, which is Northern Ireland Now, freely available to access anywhere. So thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Elspeth. We are a bit in delay, but we started a bit late, so I think we can get 10 minutes. I prepared a few questions, but probably I will make one, and then we give the floor also to the audience. And starting from your presentation, Elspeth, which is really much focused on community participation. I think we hear a lot of time in our sector, specifically in the latest months, years, about participation, co-stewardship. And I think in some cases there is a bit of, I'll call it participation washing in a way. I was wondering, and this is a question to all the panelists, where have you encountered the limits of participation in your own projects? So where you felt there was a conflict or tension in negotiating, let's say, and giving away a bit of the power that usually institutions hold in terms of curatorial power or decision power, giving this away to community. So where exactly you find, if you find, I suppose you have found this sort of tension at some point. So if you can tell us some of, because we have heard a lot of nice story, I would like to also to see where things get less nice. So I don't know who wants to start.
Maybe I will start with a very brief story about artists engaged in the Impulse project, because when we were writing a proposal, I was delighted with this idea that when I arrange for artists immersive space, virtual worlds when they can have access to already digitized cultural heritage objects, they will just, with much joy jump into and start to play with all this scanned materials, 3D or 2D, and, rearrange them, reuse, collage them, and everything else. But from the very first moment working with artists, it appears, for example, that they really preferred, of course, some of them, especially those engaged in the Impulse project, work with open source for example, so we are preparing our prototype using Unity engine, and they prefer to work with Godot. So they've decided to prepare not working at our platform, but to work separately, creating their performance using Godot. And then after that, this performance will be transferred to our platform and connect with our platform. And then it appears that for them, having this digitized object is not enough. They would like to go, somewhere when they can produce their own 3D assets to use as surroundings in virtual environments, and then start to play with Giantia temple and in Malta, and create their own environment. So, it was for me the really nice example that we are just, trying to imagine what communities really needs to do with what we are doing as institutions. And sometimes it's quite far from what we can expect of them. So we need to start to have this dialogue stronger and much more intense than nowadays, because if we really would like to have this collaborative cloud effective, and it's, sorry, I will tell that very strongly, that's a huge opportunity for all of us working with cultural heritage in Europe. And we really need to invite communities to discuss it with them.
Okay, I mean, it's interesting what you were saying about the fact that communities were, in this case, the artists were preferring to go towards open solution. This resonates a lot with what you, Daniel, you are suggesting, basically. So I was wondering if you had some confirmation, or probably, of course, you have, that basically building versus buying AI capacity a means for community. So it's something that goes into the direction where the community would like to go.
Yes, I think I think there are two sides to this idea, to this question, and to go back to your initial provocation about what things that the limits of collaboration and the limits of possibility in collaboration space. I think we have found through the ESA project that there is a real tension between seeing AI technologies as a way to replace human laborers in screen organizations, but at the same time as a way to ease up workflows and to improve the workflows I already have. Some of these two things are not always coherent. These two visions are not always coherent. And I think one, I mean, deliberately being provocative as well with archives partners is to say, okay, so if that's the case, and if we agree that this is that you want to be open, then there is also what are you willing to do to get there, and this is also about willingness to transform your institution. And this is a negotiation in the end, and it needs to come from both sides. Open source and open technologies have their own types of workflows and require their own types of commitments. So one thing I'd like to say is I invite everyone to have a stake in the AI development idea, right? So not to see it as a technology that does something to you, but to be able to be part of that development. And that involves getting some skin in the game as well. So if you are co-developing a technology, you are also partly responsible of how it turns out at the end. So it's easier to complain about technologies that we feel completely powerless over, right? So they just happen to us. But that's not exactly the case. It is possible to have a stake, and it is possible to decide some of these things. But that involves also owning those decisions. And that's where the negotiation happens. And I think that's a very clear tension and limitation in terms of, and it's not a limitation, it's actually the opportunity of collaboration, but also the risk of collaboration. So we need to accept those risks as well as the benefits that come from collaboration. Yeah, so it's a long way to say the last thing that I said.
Thank you. Elspeth, I mean, in your context, the community you work with, even want to have AI involved, or we are just offering or this is a solution looking for a problem in a way, so it's not something that is wanted at the table.
In terms of the community groups we would work with, are they interested in?
Yeah.
I think it's been kind of interesting, as you say, in terms of you can never go in with a set of expectations about what a community group will be interested in or not. And for us, it's the project and the way we've been doing things has been prioritizing sort of meaningful connections with the archives and with in-person screenings, but predominantly these technologies are being developed behind the scenes and with projects in collaboration, as we mentioned, with Northern Ireland Screen. But if you're talking day to day to participants, I think they're more interested in, from my experience and the work I've done, in making work that sits outside that and actually in sort of returning to human stories. And especially the younger people, a lot of them are very anti stuff that's made with AI in that context, with generative modes. And we haven't broached the sort of subject of using it, incorporating it with cataloguing with the community partners. We've taken a more organic approach with them and saying about language and how we can then adapt it. So I'm not getting a sense with the community groups that it's something that they're interested in at this juncture and within the context of Northern Ireland, but maybe as it was integrated within the way we're doing things, that might change, but it's not been a direct kind of part of our conversation. So,
then for Jolė and Laura, I think that I mean, I was interested really going back to my original question, how, for example, you negotiate what gets into EKINAS and what stay out is something that you share with the community you are serving, or is a right that you reserve to yourself as curators and archive holders?
I think we are still in the phase of introducing EKINAS to our community, because as Laura told me today, a lot of people in Lithuania don't know EKINAS. We're still promoting it. We're still starting to promote during different events, during Vilnius Book Fair, during other events. So now our aim is to promote EKINAS, not work directly with communities, but to make more and more material available online for people, for doing their work, simply for watching during their leisure time. So, but as we are quite traditional archive, sometimes it's quite difficult to change our colleagues' mind, because they work for a very long time. And why we do have to work with community? My job is to make description, my job is to digitize, my job is to make exhibition, and that's all. So, but now we have some young people, so maybe in the future it will be more with community.
I appreciate your honesty, actually, because this is true in many institutions, actually.
Yeah.
So it's not easy to change mindset and give away power, because this is power at the end.
Yes, yes, of course.
So yeah. So I would like to close with, let's say, one question. Yeah. There, I don't know if there is someone with the mics. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's exactly at the opposite side, up there.
Joanna Piotrowska, I'm a copyright a lawyer for FINA, and I do hope the copyright-related question will not kill the discussion as previously.
Anyway, it's a coffee break
anticipated,
now.
But I do have a question which we find important here. I'm very much impressed with your Jolė and Laura presentation about the openness of EKINA archive, and we would really very much like to be the same open here, but we do face copyright-related barriers, and I wonder how you deal with these barriers common to all EU member states. Are you simply brave enough to ignore them, or you managed to find a golden grail, a legal golden grail that you would be ready to share with the rest of us? Thank you.
We of course have copyright issues, but we are quite lucky because we have, for example, for films, we have a significant part of our films is already public domain, or we have ourselves copyright because authors gave us the copyright to the archive. So, but for those, for example, films who are under copyright, we put only descriptions, and then if someone wants to have a copy or to do something with this material, he contacts the copyright owner, and the copyright owner says yes or no or something. So we choose this way.
Okay. Maybe one last question. I cannot resist not giving the floor to you. If there is one. Anyway, otherwise, we just have a coffee. Okay, let's go for a coffee then.